Morning, everybody. I am Christ, I am Disciple, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Twilight of the Gods in the context of what's happening in the world today. I'm going to give you some updates on what's happening in the world today as well. So, we're going to really get into it. All praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first. This stream is sponsored by LIVE products. LIVE, live now, we're live now. You have different flavors: fruit punch, orange sour, grapefruit, and Morby, as well as lime. If you are in the Trinidad and Tobago area, you can order today. Call or WhatsApp 319-4788, 319-4788. We also have in the LIVE product line, we also have disinfectant, liquid, detergent, we have dishwashing liquid, and fabric softener. So if you want these things, place your order today. The number again is 319-4788, 319-4788. Blessings be to everybody today. Well, Hezbollah actually responded to Israel and rained down a whole ton of rockets on Israel. They launched many, many rockets in 24 hours and caused a lot of damage in Israel. This happened after the Iranian supreme leader, Khamenei, he spoke on the gloves being off, and with that, the assault on Israel has begun. There was a lot of restraint by Iran, even by Hezbollah in Lebanon. There was a lot of restraint by the Yemenis, sending warning signals, sending warning shots across the bow, hitting Tel Aviv. They've gotten past the Iron Dome a number of times, whether it's the Iranian forces, whether it's Hezbollah. And so that what has happened is the Iranian leader has now said that, listen, gloves are off and Israel's going to be toast. If this is a war they want, we're going to give it to them, just like what Sigrid said. And so everybody's been holding back on Israel. You know, Israel's been able to do very much a lot of really extreme rogue things and get away with it. But that's about to end. Iran spoke to America and said, stay out of this. You don't want to be in this. Also, what's going on is Israel is getting slaughtered on the ground right now in Lebanon. The Lebanese army is just totally destroying the Israeli army that is trying to invade Lebanon with their tanks and stuff. They are just completely ambushing them and destroying them, because, as you know, the Lebanese know their terrain. So this is what's happening, and a number of Israeli soldiers are already killed, and that's what that post there is saying. And Peter Dow, who's a guy on Twitter, he said, do people realize Dems, Repubs, and their media mouthpieces, CNN, NBC, and Fox, are staunchly nationalistic and militaristic in their framing? Immigrants are criminal invaders. Israelis are the good guys, and Lebanese, Iranians, and Palestinians are all terrorists. Yeah. Zena's talking about how children are being targeted by Israeli forces, but I want you to hear what Robert Kennedy Jr. had to say, and this is the whole reason why this whole empire is going to fall. The logic is just astounding, and I just want to get into it.
Would be controlling the Mideast, and they control 90% of the world's oil supply, and that would be if Israel disappeared, Russia and China would be controlling the Mideast, and they control 90% of the world's oil supply, and that would be cataclysmic for U.S. national security.
Doing business with the Middle East and China doing business with the Middle East, it's already happened. China does a lot of business with my country. Okay, my country, they came and they built a whole set of stuff in my country. Okay, the Chinese are very efficient. There is the downside to it. Sometimes they can, and the African countries realize that, and they didn't want to do business with China, but they've been doing business with Russia. The Russians and the Chinese are not our enemies. They're not enemies to the world. Okay, they're not looking for world domination. They're willing to work together. The Russians and the Chinese, they're willing to work together with anybody at this point in time. And they're kind of offsetting what, if let's say the U.S. had, while Russia was broken up, China was broken up, the U.S. would have run Russian. This place would have been so Democracy was a thing of the past a long time ago. The way how these wicked people are moving. So it's really a good thing. They kind of check. They keep the United States and the Western Empire in check, and so that's why they're there. And Russia, there's a lot to talk about here, but let me just get to this point. Russia has clearly stated that if any aggression is taken at Iran, that Russia will join. And Israel's already bombed some of Russia's sites in the Middle East. I believe they bombed a warehouse or something in Syria. So Russia will be, as I said before, if there's one country you don't want to go up against, because they don't trouble anyone, they keep their affairs internal. However they run their internal affairs is their business. Okay, it's Russia. You don't really. That's a war you're going to lose. Okay, I'm guaranteeing you're going to lose against Russia. And people say, well, Afghanistan, Russia didn't take down Afghanistan. Well, they went into Afghanistan. They went into Afghanistan. Okay, but Russia generally doesn't go into countries. Anyway, the point is, the Russians have enough problems of their own dealing with their own country. Okay, they're not really interested in taking over the world because they know that's a way bigger task at hand, and they're just trying to have the Russian people satisfied with what they're giving them. So to say that Russia would attack the world and look for world domination, now China might more want to do that because they're a commerce industry, and they may want to dominate the world. But no if buts or maybe about that. Okay, but even so, China is not looking to what is the word I'm looking for? They're not looking to proselytize the world into their form of governance. That's the one thing people are not realizing. Are they somewhat draconian in how they do business? Yes. You know, they would take lands if you can't pay back your debts and stuff like that. They're very draconian in that respect. But as to say that they are going to try to change the political structures of other countries to suit their model, no, they're not going to do that. Now, that's important because almost any nation that comes in the world, they will try to expand, except for Russia. Russia has so much real estate. It's not trying to expand anything. But the point I'm making is the demise of the West and the Western Empire, which is falling apart as we speak, is because they're so adamant that they need to dominate the world. They need to stay on top. They need to call the shots. They feel like somehow having to sit at the table with other people that are their equals, which clearly Russia and China and India are their equals, whether they like it or not, in terms of technology, everything. The fact that they have to sit at the table with these people instead of Europe and Belgium and Germany and France and England, UK, makes them feel very angry. And it's because of white supremacism. So listening to Mr. Kenny talk about it's going to be fatal for American interest and stuff. No, what you're engaging in right now, this war that you started, that you guys started, that you're propagating against Russia and against the Middle Eastern countries, is going to cost you your leadership and may just destroy your entire empire completely. Because then they're going to look at you as an adversary and they're going to destroy you. And that's not what you want. You want actually to sit at the table with these people and negotiate with them. And that's not happening. Okay, that's not happening. Instead, you're trying to bully them. And they're stronger and they're more powerful and they're richer than you. You're trying to bully people who, yeah, they used to be under you. They used to be called the Global South. Yeah, but they've caught up and they're passing you. It's the same thing happening in the United States of America when it comes to the white people becoming a minority, and they're reacting to it because the people who used to be minorities, they're now becoming the majority. They're catching up to them in terms of numbers, and they're going to extreme measures of violence to try and control those numbers and get those numbers down. But the world always has been multicultural, multiracial, and it's about time the world is reflected that way. And whether the United States of America wants to fight against that and Israel and all the white supremacists in Europe and the racist, well, Good luck on that. See, you still have to come back to those countries to get resources. And when those countries now don't need you, like Africa is realizing they don't need the Europe and they don't need the United States of America, they can do it on their own. Now, because you made them your enemies and you're saying you're going to try and force yourself on them and you're going to try and use your power and might to steal from them now you're not going to get any business done for you. They're just going to isolate you out and let you shrink up and die. Okay. So, like I said before, this empire is falling. It's falling rapidly. And the way how these desperate people, these desperate private sector people, particularly these corporations, how they're trying to do very, very draconian measures to make sure that they stay in power and stay in control. But they're going to get isolated out. They killed Colonel Gaddafi because he was isolating out American US dollar. They were going to replace it with gold. Now, BRICS is coming in the line of what Mr. Gaddafi was doing. But Mr. Gaddafi, unfortunately for him, was just one individual. When you have a system in place like what Hezbollah has, what Hamas has, what the Houthis have, what's in Iraq, that axis of resistance, what Iran has, you can kill one man, but the idea keeps going on because there's a system in place. You know, in Russia, it's the same thing. Now, even though Putin is the head of Russia, there's a system in place whereby Mr. Putin, even if he was assassinated tomorrow, it would just have another guy come in place and run that same system. So when you have systems in place, it's very hard for the powers that be to stop that. And not to mention, especially if people are oppressed, the motivation behind that the people are very determined and motivated to come up from under their oppression. So it's going to be an extremely ugly picture when the empire falls down, because this is heading towards a World War III, no doubt about it. And the people who are escalating are the United States and Israel and Ukraine and the whole entire European bloc. They're escalating this. And they're saying one thing with their mouths, but they're lying and they're doing something opposite to what they're saying. And if the only grounds in the Ukraine versus Russia conflict is that Russia violated Ukraine's sovereignty, and you want to keep it like that, and you decide you're going to somehow take over Russia, you're going to destroy Russia with NATO, and what I don't understand is this: you're quick to back Ukraine, these white people in Ukraine, who are, a lot of them are Nazi sympathizers and Nazis. You're quick to support them going up against Russia, but you're not quick to support the Palestinians who are being oppressed by Israel. I never understood that. You have poor, brown-skinned people, nobody cares about them. You got white supremacist white people who have some money, who have a military, who have actually nuclear capabilities. You support those people. I mean, you show us that you're classist. You show us that you're racist. You show your true colors right there by your actions. It doesn't really matter what platitudes you say. Watching Robert Kennedy Jr., a white man, support a white initiative in the middle of Palestine is so offensive. It's so blatant. I'm going to show you something else here, if I can. I've heard many a time, people say that the Palestinians are not the Philistines. I've heard it many a time. And certain historians try to twist history and say the Palestinians were killed out or whatever. That is bullshit. They like to say that the inhabitants of Palestine are actually Arabs that migrated there, and that's bullshit as well. I'm going to read from the Bible, from Genesis chapter 21, and you're going to know who these Philistines are, and that they actually occupied the land of Palestine or Philistine long before Israel even came to be. This is called the Treaty of Beersheba. At the time, Abimelech is another name for a Philistine pharaoh or Philistine king, and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Listen to the pact. Show to me and the country where you now reside as a foreigner the same kindness I have shown to you. And Abraham said, I swear it. Let me run it back again. I'm going to run it back to you because I need to say it again. Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Now, to put a little context behind this, you can go and read Genesis chapter 20, where Abraham actually lived in the kingdom, in the palace with Abimelech. And then Abimelech found out that Abraham's wife, which he claimed was his sister, Abraham was lying to him, and he almost got killed by God. God warned him in a dream not to touch her. Anyway, so he says to him, God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Show to me and the country where you now reside as a foreigner the same kindness I have shown to you. You see, you have to understand, even though God promised Abraham this land, it was Abimelech who sold him the land in peace and allowed him to stay in the land of Philistine. Abraham is the forefather of Israel, aka Jacob or Yakub. So before Israel even existed, there was Philistine, aka Palestine. So when these Ashkenazi Jews come to you, whether it's on Twitter or wherever, and say that no, they're not the true occupants of Palestine, they're flipping the script, because truly they are not the true occupants of Palestine. They are foreigners that came back to Palestine. They may have been partial descendants, because they're not fully Jews. They're mixed. They're mixed with European blood. But even so, when they returned to Palestine, they were descendants of former Jews that used to live in Palestine 2,000 years ago. Now, some of those Jews fled to Europe, to other places, okay, in the world. Some went to South America, and some went to Europe, some went to Spain, etc. Some went to Africa. However, having said that, some also stayed in Palestine. And they call them Palestinian Jews. And what's very important for people to understand is the ones that stayed in Palestine, never gave the Palestinians any problems whatsoever. I want you to hear me again. The ones that stayed in Palestine. Now, after that, we had what was known as the Inquisition, where Queen Isabella kicked out a lot of Jews from Spain because the Christianity wave came over and they kicked out Jews. And some Jews went to Portugal, and some Jews went to Palestine. Some Jews went to the Middle East. There are Jews in every single Middle Eastern country you could think of. Morocco, Iraq, that whole region. They found haven there because it was safe for them. Nobody tried to persecute them there. So before the influx of Jews into Palestine, which started at the end of the 19th century and continued onwards, you have to understand that there were Jews living in Palestine. and they obeyed the creed that Abimelech and Abraham, the pact that Abimelech and Abraham made. They did not deal falsely with the inhabitants there, the descendants of Abimelech. All right. They showed kindness as foreigners in that land as Abimelech showed to Abraham. This is a very important point I want people to understand, because a lot of times people twist the truth and lie. Now, Abraham swore to it, and then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. Abimelech said, I don't know anything about this. You did not tell me. I heard only about it today. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and brought it to Abimelech, and two men made a treaty. Abimelech set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, what's the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs that you set apart by themselves? And he replied, accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. And the well was called Beersheba, because the 2 men swore an oath there. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol and the commander of his forces returned to the land of the Philistines, aka Palestine. And Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a very long time, aka Palestine. Okay? It wasn't known as Israel, because Israel didn't exist, because there was no Isaac and there was no Jacob. Jacob didn't come until 2 generations after. Now, having said that, who was there first? The Palestinians were there first. Okay, the Palestinians, the king of the Palestinians, sold some land to Abraham in the land of Palestine. Okay, now that became Israel. Israel turned away from God, so God brought them into captivity, and they went to Iraq, aka Babylon. But then the Persians, the Iranians, took over Iraq. And the Iranians reigned over them, and the Israelites served them. But under the Iranians, under Artaxerxes, not Artaxerxes, what am I saying? Artaxerxes, also known as Abimelech, who was a pharaoh or king. They were able to go back into the land of where they had their temples and stuff. They were able to go back there, and they were able to rebuild there. Okay? And they rebuilt, and they stayed there. So after that happened, the Greeks and so on took over, and then they had to pay taxes to them. And then came the Romans, and they took over from the Greeks. And the Romans, they served under them. They still had their king and stuff, and they had their establishment. And then in 70 AD, the Romans ran through their place, destroyed their whole cities and everything, Jerusalem and all that, and they scattered all over the place. Some of them went to Syria, some of them went to Lebanon, some of them went to, they scattered all over the place, and some of them stayed, some of them ran away, and then they came back, and they stayed in the area. Now, after that, we had the Crusades, and then after the Crusades, we had the jihad, the Islamic jihad. And some of the Jews that stayed in Palestine during that time, they were never affected by the jihad. So that's why you had a lot of Jews. But then you had other Jews who changed their religion and went and became Islamic. Just like how they had some Jews that changed their religion and became Christians. We also had Jews that stayed there, and they followed a different Jewish tradition. They were Jews. Well, we know about them because it's been written about them, the disciples of Jesus and so on. So they were Jewish. They still followed Jewish practices to some degree. They still went into the place where they taught anyway, and still participated. And most of them were Pharisees. Um, but they now follow the way, what we call the way. Okay, they weren't called Christians, but some of them were called Christians, but they were the early Christianity. Okay, if you look at Messianic Jews and so on, they're kind of like the new version of them. Okay, so I'm saying all of this to say, then there was another set of Jews that came into Palestine. They started influx from Europe. They spoke Yiddish, which is a new kind of form, a kind of Babylonian form of Jewish speaking. And Yiddish is now something more popular today. But the original Jews, they either spoke Aramaic or they spoke early Hebrew. Early Hebrew is more like Aramaic. Okay, which now the Yiddish is a little bit different. That's a new thing. That's a new thing that kind of came about again when Israel started to become a power. But that's not the original Jewish language. You understand? So this is the story behind it. Now, having said that, the European Jews, they came with their own language and their own dialect of the Jewish thing. And then they came with their own European sort of like thing. Most of them were white, blue-eyed people, because most of them were mixed with European blood, which is why we say they're Ashkenazi Jews. You have the Sephardic Jews, which come mostly from Spain. Those were the ones that scattered to Spain, Portugal, of which my ancestry comes from. And then you have the Semitic Jews, which come from Africa, okay? And they scattered about in Africa and so on. And then you have other Jews who, they're all over the world. Jews are all over the world, and descendants of Jews are all over the world. Now, having said that, the point I am making is this, that they are trying, these Ashkenazi Jews particularly, they're trying to claim that they have rights to the land more than even the endemic Jews who stayed in the land or around the region. And that's where, in this modern age and in this modern world, that just doesn't fly. 2,000 years ago, we were here. Okay. And you migrated out. Yeah. Okay. That doesn't make the land yours. You understand what I'm saying? It sounds ridiculous, right? Because the people who are there, some of them have been there for 6,000 years. They've been there. And can you beat that? Can you beat 6,000 years ago? Is this about who came first? What kind of bullshit is that? All right. If you come to a certain land 20 years after, let's say, okay, your parents, your parents' home was in a certain place, right? And you come back 20, 30 years after, and somebody's built a house on there. You're gonna just, get off my parents' home. If you have a deed, maybe, if you have some sort of information that shows that. But if you don't have any deed or anything, no, that person, because they've been there for X amount of time, that becomes their home. Right? I think it's a decade or something. If somebody's on land for a decade or something, that becomes their property. Something like that. That's how the law goes. So you can't go and just displace those people because your generation of generations before used to be on that land. That's just ridiculous. You weren't there. You weren't occupying it, right? Now, if they've been displaced from the land, it's a little bit different. That's you either get compensated for it, maybe the government because somebody's on it now, but you can't displace the people who are on the land from it just like that. You understand what I'm saying? Especially if they've been there for more than a decade or something, which is tricky because when we talk about the occupied territories where people illegally went on, if they stayed there for 20, 30, 40 years, it's kind of hard to displace them now, legally speaking. This is the way how the law works. Now, having said that, these people came in from Europe and then they started to agitate the people of the area. They started to sabotage the people of the area, started beating up the people of the area, and they started to mistreat the people of the area because their goal was to displace them and replace them. And because they had something called the Balfour Declaration, which again honored what Abraham had made covenant with Abimelech, saying, you are not supposed to, according to the Balfour Declaration, You're not supposed to encroach on the people's culture around you, your neighbors, and you're not supposed to destroy. You're supposed to respect people around you, and you're not supposed to destroy their stuff and their livelihoods and so on. And from the jump, these particular Jews from Europe began practicing the very same thing that was done to them in Europe. They began to cause controversy, cause problems in the region immediately. And this led, they provoked wars, sabotaged people's lands, they sabotaged their stuff, their crops and stuff. And they started agitating so they could create a war, which they then, with the backing of the UK and America and so on, they were able to win. Okay. And since then, they've been bullying everyone in that region, and they have been wreaking havoc, all kinds of evils, oppressing the people, taking away their lands, shooting and killing them, murdering them. They got powers of occupation. They were able to occupy certain areas, supposedly in the interest of national security. And they have run rampant since then. And we are now beginning to find out the kind of atrocities they have committed over the last couple of decades. It's come out in the surface that these people are really, really bad people. And so it's very important that Israel is, at least what it is currently now, is completely and utterly disbanded and destroyed. And because it affects another nation of people. It affects the Palestinians. If it was an internal thing where they were doing their part, and even if it's internal, we've seen what happened with South Africa. So the world pressure now is put on Israel to disband it and disband the structure, the apartheid structure that it is. And of course, the forces of white supremacy and also the corporate forces don't want that to happen, because this is basically a template for what the world should be. They want the world to be like that. So this is the battle that we're having right now. And thankfully, Russia and China are allies in this battle right now. And, you know, I'm not saying they're the greatest things in the world and that their governance is the best in the world. I'm not saying that either. But I could tell you they're the lesser of the two evils right now. And so it's good that Russia and China are on the sides of Iran. And even Iran is not run. It's not a perfect country either. But having said that, again, the United States had a hand to play in how Iran moved from a democratic state to what it is now. They frustrated the process, and they actually allowed for a coup to happen against. They actually facilitated a coup against the democratically elected government at the time. So it's really sad what happened in Palestine. Even Palestine was also a sort of democratic state in which many different cultures and people were in Palestine. Palestine kind of reminds me of Trinidad. And so it's really sad that it came to, it is what it is now. And again, because of, again, agitation and just, external forces coming and invading in there, and really destroying the harmony and the culture. It was a business. It was a flourishing business part of the world. And so, like I said before, because of Palestine and because Israel does not want to allow the Palestinian people to have self-determination, don't want them to even have their own country, is trying to annihilate them and annihilate the countries around them, sovereign states. They're just not a good look on anything. Right now, they just don't have a good look at all. And America is supporting them. America doesn't look good at all. And the fact that America is supporting Israel over its own fucking people right now. Like, they're putting billions of dollars into Israel, while right now FEMA has no money to help the flood victims. It just looks horrible. Like, the optics on this is just awful. You know, how disgusting the war machine is in the United States of America. And that's why it should turn off a lot of people from voting for either candidate right now in these elections, because either candidate is going to be pro-war. Either candidate is going to be about white supremacism. Either candidate is going to be supporting genocide. And really, we don't care about I don't care about either candidate. I'll tell you quite frankly, even in my country, I don't care about either candidate in terms of the two big duopolies out there as well. I think that the two duopolies are, we're not feeling, the public, the public is not feeling any positive change for themselves. People are still losing jobs. People are still, I see so many people homeless. I see so many people begging me for money every single fucking day. Okay, the evidence on the ground is not translating, and they build highways, they build all kinds of things, but the people, they're suffering. Okay, and if your people are suffering, what the fuck did they even vote for you for? To get more suffering? Shit, hell no. So this is what I'm talking about. There's a huge, and it just keeps on getting bigger and bigger gap between those who have and those who don't have. And if you have out here, you don't give a fuck about the people who don't have. You know what I'm saying? You're in your own sphere, you're in your own thing, you're doing your thing because you're comfortable. You're not thinking about the disenfranchised. You're not thinking about, you're not watching, you're not observing how many more people are suffering around you. And it just keeps on increasing. You're kind of impervious to that because you're okay. You know what I'm saying? And that's the kind of shit that we can't continue to propagate in this fucking country and in the world, because it's not just unique to one or two countries. Now it's a worldwide thing, and you can see it because you can see how much people are dissatisfied with their governance, with who is governing them. And it's because it's not trickling down, it's not translating to the average person. There's no love and care for the average person. And no matter how much conglomerates and how much governments even, try to get that message across to the public, it's very difficult when you have a system put in place that says, I don't give a fuck about you. I care about me. If you have a system like that, it doesn't really matter. You have to destroy that system, or you have to revise and rehaul that system so that people can feel like they matter, they care. And the thing about all these countries and all these governments is, who's financing these governments? It's you. You're the one financing them. The bulk of the money comes from taxes. No matter what, the businesses may be doing well. In a country, there may be great exports and stuff, but believe it or not, your tax dollars is what makes up the majority of the income for any budget, for any government. Isn't that crazy? You're the one that keep a country running. You. So anybody tells me, oh, you don't matter, tell them to shut the fuck up, because you're the one paying for it. Okay? Tell them to shut the fuck up. Okay? You do matter. And the more you take back your power, the more you will get stronger. Okay? Because you're paying for it. So what you want? You want to pay for suffering, and your suffering and problems, and when you're jobless and you can't pay taxes and stuff, you become a burden on the system? Is this what we're going to do? I mean, you should feel proud that you pay taxes. I don't think taxes are necessarily a bad thing. You should feel proud that you contribute to your country running. So I don't discourage people from paying taxes. I know that as a child of the kingdom, we don't need to pay taxes, but to support Caesar and what Caesar does, we pay taxes. Okay? And it's good. It's an honorable thing to pay taxes because you're contributing to your country's development. Okay, so I will never be against taxation. That's what a government needs to do. Fine, we're cool with that. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're paying for something, you damn better sure get good stuff. Otherwise, who wants to buy something that's faulty? Who wants to buy a product that doesn't work? You buy it, you think your expectations are up for it to work, and it doesn't work. Nobody. So why the fuck would we want our leaders to be doing shabby work when we should be getting proper work for our money? We're the customer. We're the one paying. Yeah? So guys, stop being so passive. Stop being so letting so-called special interests and big powerful corporations run your country when you're the one paying the majority of the money. They put in money for political parties, but they don't even come close to the kind of money that you guys collectively give governments. They don't come close. You guys give trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars. I want you to understand what kind of power you have. You give trillions of dollars to governments every fucking year. Okay? There's no corporation in the world that can even match that. Okay? So think about that. You also are what make these corporations so powerful because you pay into them and you give them also billions of dollars. Billions of fucking dollars. Think about what I'm saying. You drive everything. They can't do shit without you. So stop behaving like you have no power. We shut the fuck down Warner Brothers. We shut them down. You know why? Because we said we don't believe in that product and we're not supporting it. There are more than 200 million of us. 200 million of us that support Warner Brothers. Okay? We have the capabilities of bringing in billions of dollars to Warner Brothers. Billions. To restore the Snyderverse camp, the Snyderverse fans are huge. We're global. Okay? We're huge. We bring in big money to Warner Brothers. And when we withdrew our patronizing of Warner Brothers, all their movies are flopping. All. Joker's about to flop. You know why? Because we withdrew our support from Warner Brothers. You want to know who the DC fans are? Do you want to know who? It's us. All those other little corporate shills out there trying to push narratives, they don't have the power to push the kind of cash flow that we can. That's what I'm telling you now. You have to stop thinking of yourself singularly and stop thinking of your little cubicle of life. And you need to start working together with others of similar mindset who are under the same type of oppression. That's what we're seeing in the Middle East with the axis of resistance. We're seeing people networking with each other to stand up for a cause. And it's about time that the different citizens of different countries begin to understand we're all human beings and network with one another like we did to bring down Warner Brothers so far. Warner Brothers stock is what? I think it's $8 a share right now. They're fucked. And it's fucked because of us. Okay? We told them, we gave them the fucking mandate. We told them, restore the Snyderverse. We told them what to do. They never listened. So they're going to suffer until they listen to us. Because their job is to provide service for us. We're not going to dictate. We're not going to dictate what their programming is. We're going to dictate what we want. That's all we're doing. We're not trying to tell them what to do with their movie business or what, but we're telling them what we want. And if you can't give us what we want or something on par with something that we want, we're not going to support you because we don't care about you. You have to give us something that we want. We told you what we wanted back in 2001. It's 2004 now. You couldn't get that done? You couldn't get that done? You couldn't weave that into your curriculum? Into your plans? Well, all right then. Okay? So it's all about demand and supply. They're not going to listen to you if your demand is not high enough. But if the demand is high and their what's the word I'm looking for? If their bottom line is getting affected by your dissatisfaction with their product, they're going to have to find a way to change, or they're going to be destroyed. This is the world we live in today. We don't live in a world where people can lord over other people and say they have power. No, you don't really have power unless we give you it. We, the masses, give you power. We, the masses, make you rich. We, the masses. So if you don't understand that in this day and age, you think you can go from generation to generation, you're going to use certain strategies to manipulate us and divide us to rule, you're going to learn real fast. You're going to learn very quickly that we're not playing. You guys have a lot of power. I told you that a long time ago, and I mean it. You guys have a lot of power. And especially with the world being global as it is, it's easy now to get in contact with people all over the world who share a common interest with you. And you can leverage that interest for what you want. Right now, the whole entire world wants to see peace between Palestine. They just want to see peace in the Middle East. That's the sentiment that the world wants. But more specifically, they want to see the end of the oppression of the Palestinians. And the people putting the pressure on that, who are actively doing so, are the people from Lebanon, the people from Syria, the people from Iraq, the people from Yemen, and even the coalition that's in the United Nations of the Arab states, who are also putting political pressure on the infrastructure. So there's a combined effort by different nations, even if they are in conflict with each other, to see this through. And on the ground, there's a sweat. I mean, we're talking about millions of people showing up in marches and protests over this issue from all over the world. You can go China, Japan, particularly the Japanese have taken this to heart. And we see a lot of them marching about this. And these are Japanese. They're not even, they have no affiliation whatsoever with Palestine, but they understand the information's out there, how unfair what is happening in the world is happening. And everybody's talking about ending this occupation. And some people are talking about a two-state solution. I won't say it's a two-state solution necessarily, because I honestly don't think Israel as it is right now, supposedly representing democracy, as it is right now, I don't think it's an entity that will, especially if it loses land, I don't think it's going to stop being aggressive and stop attacking the nations around about it. There has to be a fundamental restructuring of how Israel is to be able to have it coexist with the nations around it in peace. Because fundamentally right now, I'm not saying Israelis in Israel are bad people, because I know there's a lot of Israelis, almost half of the Israelis in Israel, even to this day, they're not saying much, but they're the ones who, they don't like what's happening. They don't like the governance that's happening in Israel. And it's the hardliners you're hearing a lot more, because the ones who really want to speak the truth about it, they're being censored. They're being intimidated. They're being threatened. Okay? As I said before, I have a couple of friends over there who I know they some of them are even livid at what is happening. Okay? But it's something they can't speak out openly, because they will be attacked relentlessly, and they will be annihilated, and then you don't have a resistance in Israel. So they're waiting for the right moment, the right time to do what they need to do. But there are also others of them who have been put in prison and stuff because they've protested. They have openly protested about this, and they're incarcerated right now. Okay? And they're being tortured, and all kinds of wicked things are being done to them because they protested what happened. And we're seeing it not just in Israel, we're seeing it in the UK. We've seen some journalists being put in prison in the UK without any charges on them, supposedly under the Terrorist Act. We've seen it in America. We've seen it also in other countries. They've also been assassinating people. They've been killing people all around the world. So this stuff is very dangerous in that respect. But you can't keep quiet. You have to speak out about it. I've been censored on here a number of times on YouTube. They've blocked my feed. They tried to hit me with copyright, all kinds of crazy things they've been doing to me, so that this message would not get out to the masses. But it's going to get out anyway. I mean, once you put anything out on social media, it gets around. You may not track it, but it gets around. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to point out that very important fact before I go into this stuff here. So, I mean, Nick Fuentes said his thing. Nick Fuentes is absolutely right. Yeah, Russia, as I said before, we get involved in this thing. We talked about that already. We talked about most of this stuff already. Yeah, they attacked for orphans. They've been just randomly attacking civilian targets. I don't even want to show this, but I'm going to show you. This child just got blown to shreds. Still alive though. So these are Irish people.
Somebody is responsible for all of this. And I'll tell you who's responsible. The state of Israel that invaded Lebanon in 1982, invaded it in 1996, invaded it in 2006, and invaded it again in 2024. Do you remember about Shatila and Sabra? When they collaborated with the Christian Phalange to kill hundreds of people in Palestinian refugee camps in 1982. Or the decades-long ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, an illegal occupation now under international law, the illegal occupation of Gaza, the 17-year-long siege of Gaza, which is a war crime. These are the roots of the conflict, and we can condemn all we like unless we say that is the problem, and this is a rogue state guilty of these criminal actions. And I'll tell you who you never, ever condemn is the United States for giving them the weapons to carry out these crimes, or its complicity in those crimes, in giving it impunity for genocide, for legal occupation, for apartheid.
It's 100% correct. He's 100% correct. And that's just the way how that goes. And you say, well, it's an empire. What can we do about it? How do you mean, what can we do about it? How do you mean, what can we do about it? Do you have a conscience? You speak out against it. You find like-minded people, and then you take action. And there's several ways to take action. The first way to take action, I'm going to say to you guys, is continue to build strong networks and ties with people all around the world who do not support this thing, and build up a strategy so that you're replaceable. If they kill you or whatever, you're replaceable. Step number 2, the American empire is built around corporate interest, particularly their military complex. Okay? Everything revolves around that because they make money off of that. So to stab into that, you want to vote in your election for a candidate who opposes all those things. And there's only 2 candidates I know right now, 2 candidates for president, that is, I know, who are striking at the heart of that. One has a party behind her, and the other is independent. The independent candidate I'm talking about is Cornel West. He says some stupid things about Jill Stein, but whatever. Cornel West is one of the candidates who is fighting against that. And the second candidate is Dr. Jill Stein with Dr. Butch Weir as her VP. Now, of the 2, I pick
Dr. Jill Stein. I would love to pick Cornel West. I wish he was running with the Green Party, but he has no party behind him. He's just an independent, and maybe he could still pull it off. Maybe he can. Who knows? But what I do know is the one with the systemic structure. If Jill Stein is killed tomorrow, Butch Ware would be president of the United States, and he could carry it on. And if he gets annihilated, there's somebody there again that can carry it on. And if that person gets annihilated, because they have a system in place. They have a system in place. So, but if say Mr. Cornel West is annihilated, that's it, right? The campaign's running on him. So you want something that's systemically created that can withstand assassinations. You understand? That's very important. That's what Hezbollah has. That's what Hamas has. That's what Iran has. You have to have a system in place. You see? So that's what I'm saying. Now, you guys need to have a strong system, because you must be able to say, okay, we're going to withdraw our support from this, or we're going to withdraw our support from that, because this is not in our best interest. So that's why you need to build up a collaboration, a team of people from all over the world, not just one place, but all over the world, to put pressure. Now, so if, for example, you guys vote for Jill Stein, she becomes president of the United States, of course, the assassination attempts will start to increase as she looks like she's going to win the election. They're going to try and assassinate her before that happens. But having said that, you guys putting that kind of pressure on the establishment is what's important. It's not Jill Stein who's putting the pressure, and that's what these intelligence agencies do not understand. If she gets in contention to become president of the United States of America, as a viable contention, when they look to assassinate her, they got to understand they got to assassinate all of us, because we're the ones backing her, right? And we're the ones who will back Butch Ware or whoever's there, who once they're going with anti-genocide, pro-humanity, purging of these corporate interests from the electoral process. If people are backing that, understand it ain't gonna go away because you assassinate somebody. It's only going to amplify it and make people justified in believing, all right, we're really going to throw support behind this particular set of people. Okay? So, and I'm telling you, Dr. Jill Stein is going to come out of nowhere and take this election. She's going to win it. She's going to win it. I'm telling you, she is the candidate that's going to win the election. And the irony of the situation is, she comes from a Jewish background, and she's going to do things to Israel that no other president would do. It's going to be unprecedented, what she's about to do. And Israel, I'm telling you, Israel is going to have a problem in terms of existing as a state or entity. In its current form. It may exist as a state or entity in the Middle East. That may happen. It's up to the negotiations between the Palestinians and the Israelis, so that they'll have to come to the table and negotiate that. But what I can tell you is, if Jill Stein comes there, that issue is going to be dealt with firmly, and with the given structures that are in place, the United Nations, etc., extreme pressure will be put on Israel to change course, and rapidly. They will have a very limited amount of time to change course. Okay, so that's what I truly believe, and then, yes, she's just a figurehead in the sense of the intelligence agencies would have to listen to her and conform to whatever instructions she gives them and instructs them on, including whatever a party says. But now, of course, it depends on what the composition of Congress looks like as well. But I can tell you, she's gonna start chopping down that tree real fast. Okay, and that may be the preservation.
at least a pause preservation for the empire. But she's going to tear down the empire, sort of like, and restructure it. I think she's, like she said, she's gonna drop reparations immediately. People are going to get reparations. That's not no if, but, or maybe for the minorities. And the average person, the housing's too expensive, the rent is too expensive, living conditions are so difficult. People can't get jobs and work. She's going to have something for that because she's going to take care of Americans. So that's what is so very promising. And yes, she's more socialist than she is. Well, I wouldn't say she's not capitalist. Like I said before, she's going to try and decentralize the federal government to some degree so that the states have more power and more clout over their individual affairs, which is something that Republicans are actually pro. They really support a lot. They don't like big government and big business involved in their day-to-days. Especially the different states. But there's going to have to be some auditing of the state legislature and the state officials as well. Now, it's very important to understand that even if she passes, say, for example, a federal law about how much corporations or individuals from corporations can donate into campaigns, she has to understand these people can also use backdoor methods. It's kind of like if you eliminate the nation of Israel, the intelligence infrastructure and the monies and sway will just be sort of disseminated around the world, but they'll still coordinate with one another. So like ISIS, which is a Mossad, CIA funded organization. You'll have more terrorist organizations around to try and still push this new world order. You'll have now it's kind of like what happened with Iraq. When Iraq was disbanded, you had all these different factions and elements that start, but it's not like the country's completely down. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's the same thing's going to happen. Now they're going to be more ghost-like. So they're going to be all around the place, but they're like ghosts agitating and trying to destabilize regimes and places, and you'll have to try and track them down. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. So that'll be another problem Jill Stein will have to deal with. But I'm just saying these things so that people would understand that, just getting people not oppressed like they used to be oppressed is a good thing. Would there be a reign of terror? Would these people try to rain terror down now that their country is gone? Yes, they would probably try to, because they're just evil elements. And so they would try and do evil things. And I'm not talking about all the people of Israel again. I don't want to quote it. I'm talking about people part of the military complex, people who have an agenda to have, white supremacists and domination, and the brown people, not be as successful, the Chinese, even the Russians somehow. The Russians are probably the least liked white people of the white people. But then again, Russians are not all white. They're Asian, sort of like, some of them are black and so on. So Russia's a huge place, like I said before, like Africa's a huge place. So if you're looking for one set of people with one particular phenotypical features, like in Africa, you got people who are blue-eyed, blonde-haired, straight-nosed. You got all kinds of people in Africa. And this is the thing that an endemic to Africa. And this is the problem with stereotyping people and having racism, because, you find all kinds of people, all kinds of places in the world. I had a reality check when I spoke with an African, and this African man he didn't have blue eyes, but he looked like a white man, right? He looked white, but he was African. He was like, I'm African. I'm generations of African. I come by my father, and so on. He was explaining. And it was a reality check for me, because I was like, what? You always think of Africa a certain way. No, it's quite developed as well. So there's a lot that people don't know about these things. And there's so many, the media, the mainstream media paints a particular picture of certain places and continents and states and people. And unless you, thank God for social media, unless you
look into it yourself, you begin to realize, oh shit, this is not what, it's so weird to see people, racism is one of the dumbest things ever. It's one of the dumbest things ever. Anyways, man, I don't want to waste too much more of your time. It's 9:46. I got to get out of here. But I want to just say that, what is transpiring right now is because they're in the dying stages of this particular type of empire that's breaking and falling apart. The lies that were spoken are now being exposed, and now everybody's seeing it. The whole wide world's seeing it. And this is something that was kept secret for a long time. Again, we didn't have the internet back then. The first surgence of it, I think, was in 2014, where people really started to have rallies all around the world to free Palestine. This was under Barack Obama. And then the resurgence now is tremendous. Now it's really, this is it. This is the breaking point. And when you hear people saying, everyone's a terrorist who supports Palestine, everyone's pro-Hamas, when you start hearing these wild, extreme allegations and people trying to act on them in influential circles, it's the end game. It's coming to an end. And Zack Snyder's Twilight of the Gods, even though it's a Norse mythology, is pretty accurate and applicable to what's happening right now. And again, Zack Snyder seems to continuously do movies, and I guess that's why people in Saudi Arabia and in the Middle East love him so much, that have a literal relevance to what's going on. Like, it can't be more on the nose with what's going on. You look at Army of the Dead, you look at Rebel Moon, you start to pay attention to what he's really writing about, and he's writing it in a sort of subversive way, and you can't take it any other different. As to Gal Gadot, who is Israeli, I truly believe Gal cares about people, and I just think that she needs to stop trying to be a propaganda machine for the IDF. I think she needs to stop buying into the bullshit that the IDF does and be her own person. And if she gets persecuted for it, so be it. They won't assassinate her because she's big enough. But I haven't really heard her say much about anything, and she's been pushing IDF propaganda, which is really sad, because I'm going to say this again. Her statement that she put out about the Palestinian children and feeling for them and Palestinian families, which was retracted because of the amount of pressure the press put on her and people, and probably threats to her life and stuff. She needs to keep on putting those statements out, especially as a representative and an ambassador for Israel. She needs to say, I don't stand for this shit. People are people. And she needs to come out and just be strong on that. Stop playing it safe. Because if somebody of her star, because she's really good, she's been in some very successful films. If she insists and breaks ranks, she does herself a great favor for her own country. Israel might just survive this in terms of people saying, oh, okay, this person actually has a heart, does actually care about other people, right? So that would go a long way. But to say that I would support her policy right now, absolutely not. Okay.
Are they still not there anywhere? What are you seeing from FEMA in the federal response, if any?
I mean, they're present. They're in the way. They are directly interrupting our ability to conduct missions and operations. And I'm not going to disparage anybody, because we are trying to work within partner relationships, both government and non-government entities within state and federal and county. I went to put a couple of people into a hotel last night, and they have a security guard at the hotel. They said, "Oh, we're so sorry. The entire hotel has been booked for federal employees." And I was like, no, I have people that would just pull it out of a mountain that are living out in the hills, and there's not a place for me to put them because we have federal employees that are staying in the hotel. I slept in this white car last night. I smell like foot and death right now, as does every single person on our team. Not a single one of us slept. We got done maybe at 3 o'clock. The moment the sun was up and we could fly helicopters again. We were back in the air, and we have not stopped. And I was like on the fence about trying to get on this program or not. I want people to understand how incredible this organization is, Save Our Allies, and all the work that all of these volunteers are doing. But people, this is biblical level devastation. This is apocalyptic, the things that we see out there.
These are towns up in the mountains that are 10, 20, 40 miles away from any other town. And people on the ground like you need helicopters from the government, and they will not release them. I have heard that time and again. And the people who are delivering aid up in the mountains are now getting requests for body bags. Tim, we got to
you are 100% correct. Oh, you're right about that. And there was a no-fly when the president flew in today. We had to land helicopters to not go rescue people so a photo op could take place. And that's a travesty, and that's unconscionable.
If people want to donate, is it saveourallies.com?
That's right. And if somebody is stuck somewhere, or you know somebody that's stuck, you can go to saveourallies.org, and you can click on there. Let us know. We have people going all over into the places that can't be reached. That's why we have special operations people working with partnerships to get into those areas. So go there, support that organization, and also let us know where to go.
Tim Kennedy, you are a great American. Thank you. And I know all of this devastated area thanks you, and Save Our Allies as well. We appreciate you being on the program and just taking a couple moments out of rescuing people to tell us the story. Thank you, Tim Kennedy.
Love you much, Tim Kennedy.
Thank you.
That's real talk, and not trying to talk a partisan or anything.
Are they still not there anywhere?
They just straight up are ignoring the people. They don't care about the people. You understand what I'm saying? Benjamin Rubenstein says calling for the dissolution of the Israeli state isn't a call for genocide Jews. It's not even anti-Semitic. When the time comes, former Israelis who haven't committed crimes are unwilling to live without supremacy would be welcome in any number of states, including but not limited to Russia, the United States, UE, Ukraine, Poland, Spain, Canada, Germany, Brazil. Listen, I'm not even advocating for Jewish people leaving the region, okay? Unless they're on land which is stolen. I am saying that people who want to stay in the region, they can stay. I'm just saying that if you're not comfortable, you leave. And a lot of people are leaving anyway because of this war. A lot of people have already left Israel. The Ben Gurion airport is full. People are trying to get out because it's not stable anymore. It's not safe there. So basically, they're going to leave anyway. But what I'm saying is, those people who want to stay in the region, even after Israel is disbanded, as whatever it is, it's a failed project. And a lot of people are talking about, keeping Israel. Why would you do that? I mean, okay, maybe you have something that's called Israel, maybe, but in name, but it's not going to function the way how it functions with apartheid and with this hate for the surrounding neighbors and attacking them all the time. You can't be doing that. It has to be a different approach. It has to be an integrative approach in which real peace could happen. And, people of Palestine and people of the surrounding nations around what is now considered the state of Israel, they should be able to have peace treaties, normalize relations, and be able to do trade with each other. That's the bottom line. And that's not happening now. Instead, we're having war. And an unjust war by Israel, as far as I'm concerned. This is Zack Snyder talking about training with Kim Jong-kook. Can't wait to do it again anytime. He was training with Kim Jong-kook, so that's kind of cool. Zach's having a ball. Adam says Israel confirms it will use nuclear weapons if Iran retaliates against potential Israeli strikes on Iranian facilities, warning further aggression from Iran could lead to catastrophic consequences. Invade Israel, it's time. No more appeasement. So now they're threatening nuclear attacks. And they're not supposed to have nuclear weapons, Let us remind you. Now, Israel saying that to Iran, I hope Israel understands they're also speaking directly to the Russians. I don't think they understand what they're doing. You're threatening Russia, my dumbass friend, Mr. Netanyahu. You're threatening Russia. So when you threaten Iran, you're actually threatening Russia. You don't know that, but Russia's not going to tell you that. But if you nuke Iran, Russia's going to nuke you off the face of the earth. You're going to get nuked. And that will be the end of that. Okay? Russia will respond. Okay? So Iran told the United States, stay out of this. Okay? Told the United States to stand down. Okay? Now, if the United States already doesn't want this escalated. We kind of all on the same page with that. But they're financing Israel, so they're kind of behind it. If Israel nukes Iran, I guarantee you, Russia will nuke Israel. So if Netanyahu thinks he's going to get away with nuking any one of those Middle Eastern countries, whether it's Lebanon, whether it's Iran, and mind you, Russia is giving Iran weapons to be able to shoot down that nuke. So if you send your nuke and Iran intercepts your nuke, okay, intercepts your nuke and takes it down, understand you will not live to see another day. Because if your nuke was fired off or dropped by a bomber or whatever, and do understand Iran can shoot down bombers and planes and those kinds of things. So let's say your bomber doesn't make it to Iran because they shoot down your bomber. You're fucked. And that's all on you. Right? You assassinated a number of Iranian people. You started in Syria. Then you assassinated their president. Then you assassinated somebody they were holding in Tehran. You've been provoking them. They fired stuff. They let you know when warning in advance, and they fired stuff at you once. They fired stuff at you twice. 3 times, you're out. So fuck around and see what happens, Mr. Netanyahu, because you're about to get eradicated. You're about to blow Israel off the map. And we're going to have no more problems with Israel. Okay? You want to escalate something, that's on you. That's on you, buddy. That's on you. Because you ain't going to live to see it. I guarantee you that. It's either Iran or Russia will take you out with a nuclear weapon. And that will be it. You go nuclear, there's no turning back. So if you want to go nuclear, you want to threaten people with nuclear weapons, understand that they will annihilate you. They will not leave you. You will not survive. You go nuclear on anybody in that region, you will not survive. No America will be able to save you. Because America's too far away. So that kind of mad, extreme language, inflammatory language, is going to get Netanyahu cooked. He's going to get cooked. He's going to get cooked. It ain't too far away from getting cooked. Right? The consequences, of course, going to be far-reaching. But if he's threatening to use nuclear weapons, and let me say, I know Mr. Putin also spoke about using nuclear weapons, but the difference was that I believe it was America was pushing Ukraine to use some sort of missiles or some sort of weapon against Russia. And NATO and America were threatening Russia or whatever. They were threatening. So Mr. Putin said, listen, you don't understand. Now, the difference between Russia and Israel is Russia is kicking ass on the ground. Okay? They're kicking ass and taking names. Okay? Israel ain't kicking nobody's ass. What they're doing is they're attacking civilians. And they're killing a lot of civilians. But when it comes to actual combat, they're not kicking ass and taking any names. They're getting their ass kicked every single time. So here we have a Chihuahua barking very loudly to the world because it feels it's backed by a huge, Rottweiler or Doberman behind it. But you don't understand. The Rottweiler and Doberman know which fights to pick. Hey, and the Rottweiler and Doberman know if they're going in to face Russia, and Russia's going to show its face, I'm telling you. It's going to show its face. Because the support that Iran has is with Russia. So you want to fuck around and see what happens, Israel. Please be my guest. Because guess what? Iran will flex on you if you do any more shit in Lebanon. So you can threaten how much you want to threaten. At the end of the day, you're wrong. You're not supposed to be in Lebanon. You're wrong because you're abusing and you're killing and you're doing a genocide to the Palestinians. And I'm telling you right now, Lebanon's not going to sit around and watch you do that. The Houthis are not going to sit around and watch you do that. Iraq's not going to sit around and watch you do that because every single one of them has experienced Western imperialism, and it's imperialism foot on their neck. They not taking this shit. And Iran is not going to take that shit either because it understands that United States and Israel want to take it down because they want to make sure that everybody bows the knee to them in the Middle East, and it's not going to happen. And Russia's not going to let that happen either because Russia does business with these countries. So if they really want to fuck around and find out what really is going to go down, let them keep it up with this asshole of a dictator who is moving around trying to threaten everybody, thinking he got some weight. Oh, bruh, you about to get, if you want to know what real physical force is, if that's what you really want to do, because these people don't want to use no physical force. They want to do trade. They want to do business. They're past that, But if that's what you want to do, if you want to get down ugly and dirty, when they start to do their shit, don't be screaming and complaining. Okay? You was running like a bitch to your bunker the last time those missiles came through. So we gonna find out what you really about. Okay, you've been threatening people with nuclear this and nuclear that. Okay, you don't know what it is to have a nuclear war. Y'all have never had real battle on your home soil. You about to know what real war is. Keep fucking around. Keep fucking around. Keep fucking around. I feel so sorry for the Israelis who are not, they just don't like what's going on. But they don't got money to leave Israel like that. So they're trapped in a situation because of this asshole and his people. Okay? Talking about making it safer for Israel. This fucking idiot is making it so much more dangerous for Jews worldwide and for Israelis. He's making it extremely dangerous for them. You're making them targets. What an asshole. And guess what? The United States of America is following this asshole into hell because he represents their interest in the Middle East. You're such a jackass. You're so stupid. So when what happens, when what transpires, the United States and Israel have nothing to blame but themselves. And I'm not saying the United States in terms of the people. Obviously, they don't care about you. The people who are listening to this, they don't give a fuck about you. These are wealthy people who have never seen war. They've profited off of war, but they've never seen war. So they can talk reckless as hell because they've never been in no damn war. And they don't care about you. All you people dying up in the mountains and the hills, like we heard. Bodies of dead people suffering because they're hungry, because they don't have nothing to eat. They don't care about you. So you got to make them care about you. You got to hit their bottom line. You have to take the money from them and keep it for yourself. As I said before, elections are coming right around the corner, and these motherfucking big conglomerate-led, funded DNC and RNC, they don't care about you. They think you're going to vote for them. And you need to flip the script on these motherfuckers and vote for Jill Stein. And even Cornel West. Vote for either one of them. I don't give a fuck. And throw the whole system on its ass. You have the power to do that. You need to circulate and organize yourselves around social media. The best bet is Jill Stein. And if she wins, maybe Cornell joins with her. Who knows? But at the end of the day, you have an opportunity to take back your power from these people who are abusing the power you've given them. And stop this stupid pappy show immediately. You have the chance in this elections to filibuster these bitches. So do it. I'll do my part down here in Trinidad. But for those people who are abroad in the United States of America, it's about time y'all change the look of what your Congress looks like. Change it. Just change it. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Fuck them. They don't care about you. You vote based on somebody new whom we've never seen. That's how you have to roll the die. Last time you voted for Trump, you voted for Barack Obama, but both of them was RNC and DNC candidates. Y'all went back with Barack's regime and you got screwed over by Biden. Why would you go with somebody from that regime? Fuck them. So it's either Trump now or Jill Stein. But if you listen to Jill Stein, she's saying a lot of things that are pro-American, that will help American people of all creeds, races, and classes. Even people who I don't even care for, because I don't approve of. At least she's more embracing, and she's anti-war, which is great. Because all these wars create refugees, and all these refugees have to go somewhere. All the Syrian refugees went into Europe. That's why Europe has the problem it has now. But if things can be stabilized in Syria, if things can be stabilized around the world and these wars can end, then the people will go back to their countries. Problem solved. Africans are returning to Africa because they're beginning to realize their economies and the stability in Africa, and they can build up Africa. And people will go back to Syria if the situation in Syria can be stabilized and people are not being persecuted for their views on things. It's that simple. The international community should be putting pressure, diplomatic and economic pressure on Syria so that the leadership of Syria would either change or would walk back on certain things that it did. And then be accountable for the crimes that it committed against its own people. That's how you do it. Don't go gung-ho trying to make a lot of money off of weapons manufacturers who are making profit off of war in Syria. That's some bullshit. All right, I'm out of here.
But I just wanted to say that Douglas McGregor says breaking. White House now pushing for regime change in Lebanon. Officials say they want to take advantage of Israel and Hezbollah leadership. Can you see what's going on yet? Yep. They trying to invade and take over Libya. Lebanon. Just like what they did with Libya. And they're trying to do it with Syria and so on and so on. They're trying to put their people into places of power. This is what they're trying to do. The same thing they did in Ukraine. So Douglas McGregor's pan on, as usual. It's some bullshit going on, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Changing regimes, at least RNC or DNC, it's not going to change anything. What needs to happen is y'all need to put a spoke in the wheel and start with a fresh start. I'm telling y'all, Jill Stein, Butch Weir, they're going to have a battle to fight because they're going to have to fight the intelligence community and all kinds of things. They're going to have a battle to put on, but maybe they can win that battle because Jill's not compromising nothing. Okay, we know that already. We've seen her get beaten down, all kinds of things, and she's still with her views. So she's a tough cookie, and Butch Weir, they need to know what they're going in against. You know, I think they do to some degree. So you guys know what to do. Kamala has rallies with Republican ex-lawmaker Liz Cheney after winning her endorsement. So she lost her Wyoming district by Hugh Martin. She's associated mostly with her father as a neocon royally. John Bolton politics. Whose votes is she securing? Damn ceding anti-war votes to Trump. No, they're not ceding anti-war voters to Trump. That's what you think. I'm telling you right now, Jill Stein gonna take that. She's gonna take those votes. They're not gonna go to Trump. They're gonna go to Jill Stein. Y'all always get caught up in what the media, the mainstream media is saying, and y'all gonna get a rude awakening when Jill Stein comes through and then she almost wins this election or she wins the election. Y'all gonna be shocked. But y'all don't realize what's going on. Y'all don't understand soon enough. America is paying off Israel to bomb Lebanon and then sending money to Lebanon. Can someone help me make sense of this? Well, they're trying to play two sides of the card, but really and truly, they're putting the bulk of money behind trying to get a siege of Lebanon and regime change. And they're going to get fucked for it because right now the Israelis are getting obliterated by Hezbollah on the border as they're trying to invade. And they'll continue to get obliterated because Hezbollah will kick their ass as they have always done. For years, FEMA has bragged about giving billions of dollars to migrants. Now, Homeland Security Secretary says that FEMA has insufficient funds. Impeach Almerox again. Weak government leadership costs lives. Brother, you and I see eye to eye on that, Elon Musk. Yeah, even though you're pro-Trump, truth be told, I don't even give a fuck if you're pro-Trump or not. This is the truth. The truth is FEMA right now hasn't got the funding to be able to do what it's supposed to do. But all that money is going to wars with Israel and wars with different other places. So, as I said before, besides impeaching this dude, a lot of those people in Congress need to get fired. And the only way to fire them is to vote them out. And what people need to do is vote them out. I'm not voting for Trump. Fuck him. I'm voting for Jill Stein because I understand that the power behind all of these big corporations and organizations are the business community. And the business community doesn't care about anybody. It's strange how Elon Musk, he's part of the business community. You should know better. You know who the forces are. You know what Wall Street be doing. You know what the military complex be doing, Elon. Don't be trying to pretend like you're naive. You're dressed up in a satanic suit for starters. So don't bullshit us, man. The truth be told, Elon and all those guys, they backing whoever they want to back. But I hope Jill Stein comes out of the ashes and just utterly destroys all of them in the election. I hope she does, because we the people back Jill Stein, and I hope that more people will realize this, because I'm telling you right now, she's the only one that's accountable to the people. All the rest of you guys are just playing games. But really and truly, y'all just either side of the same damn coin. So that's what I got for you guys. The idea that Democrats are saving democracy is such utter horseshit. It's astounding anyone believes it. Dems rigged their primary and are conducting lawfare against opponents, sponsoring a barbaric child massacre and brutally cracking down on anyone protesting that massacre. That's true. And it's not just the Democrats. The Republicans would do the same shit. Okay? We know under, I believe it was, so it's just white supremacism either which way you look. You got to go with somebody against that, and that's Jill Stein. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to repeat it. I don't give a damn. The person who you want as president of the United States, whether you know it or not, is Jill Stein. Okay, that person's going to deal with more domestic issues than anybody else. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of problems going on, but she's the one that wants to demilitarize the police. She also wants to make sure that they had proper training. She also wants to make sure that all those militarized stuff that they have. And the extreme way how they act with people who need to be arrested, that's ended, okay? Because we're getting a police state. And, they say American police is the world and a police state is good. No, not like that. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, that's what I got for you guys right now. I am Christ I Am Disciple. Again, you can like, share, subscribe. You can also donate via PayPal if you wish. You can also purchase my LIVE products. LIVE, live now. We're live now. God bless you all. Have a great day.